29 years of frustration is over. The Winnipeg Blue Bombers are Grey Cup champions. An incredible performance at McMahon Stadium in Calgary. And the party is underway for players and fans. Thanks for joining us. It's been a drought lasting nearly 3 decades, but finally the words fans have waited so long to hear. The Winnipeg Blue Bombers have won the Grey Cup, a dominating 33-12 win over the Hamilton Tiger Cats in Calgary tonight. And it's the Bombers' first Grey Cup since 1990. And of course, let's start our coverage at where else but out at Portage and Main, Winnipeg's iconic intersection, where we find Marek Tkach and a whole bunch of proud Blue Bombers fans. Marek, what is the mood down there?
Yeah, that's right, Kevin. It's been 29 years in the making. As you can see behind me, the fans are pumped here at Portage and Main. It's the first Bomber Grey Cup victory since 1990. And their first appearance since 2009. From the flag raising at City Hall earlier this week to lawn signs and Bomber flags spread out across our city, it's been a week full of excitement and anticipation, all for this very moment. The Winnipeg Blue Bombers are Grey Cup champions, and here's some of the reaction from some of the fans. So for the first time, Grey Cup champions in 29 years, how does that sound? So good! So good! Oh, we're the champions, man!
That is just an incredible feeling. We have waited for it, and we did it! Woo!
I love football since I was 10, so I never got to celebrate a Winnipeg championship.
As you can see, the party won't be stopping anytime soon here at Portage and Main. I'll be back near the end of the 10 o'clock cast with more. Back to you, Kevin.
All right, stay safe down there. What a wild party, Portage and Main. Marek Tkach, thank you so much. Now, of course, many Bombers fans made the trip to Calgary, and they were hoping to see the drought end, and certainly this will be a night they will never forget. So let's head west and bring in our Lisa Dutton now. And Lisa, what's the atmosphere like in Calgary right now?
It was unreal here tonight, Kevin. The tone all game was positive and upbeat. It was like Bomber fans knew they had it in the bag the whole time. Fans inundated the field after the game, savoring the celebration. Everybody a clap. And one very special fan that we've been following throughout this whole thing is, of course, Chris Matthew. He's the one who vowed he wasn't going to wear pants until the Bombers won the Grey Cup. It's been 18 years in shorts, but he pulled some on tonight. How does it feel to have on pants?
It feels really, really odd. It feels like things are crawling on my legs, to tell you the truth.
So what's the wardrobe plan from this day moving forward? Do you think it's going to be pants from here on in?
Oh, no. After this is all said and done, I can put them on if I have to go to a place now. But other than that, I'm going back to the shorts. I quite like it.
And fans are filing out onto the street. No question the party is going to continue here in Calgary tonight. For now, I'm going to send it back to you. Congratulations, Winnipeg.
All right, thanks, Lisa Dutton in Calgary tonight. And how about that? The guy gets to put some pants on for the first time in a long time.
Nice warm trip back for him.
It wasn't bad there in Calgary, actually, so the shorts not too bad. This is Russ Hobson. Let's bring him in now. Sports reporter. So much really to talk about this game and so many highlights for the Bombers. But I think we got to start. What a performance for Andrew Harris, named the MVP and the most outstanding Canadian of tonight's game. Just an unreal performance.
Well, Harris was just 3 years old the last time the Bombers hoisted the Grey Cup over their heads, but nearly 3 decades later, it was Harris leading his hometown Bombers to a Grey Cup victory to end that drought once and for all. And just like in the 2011 Grey Cup game, Harris scoring the game's first touchdown. The Winnipegger rumbling in from 15 yards out to give the Bombers the early upper hand. Second quarter with a now 11-6. Chris Streveler in the game at quarterback, looking end zone into tight coverage, and Harris making the grab in traffic. Coming up right away here. Harris will make the catch after Streveler gets into the game. Tight coverage, 3 black jerseys all around him, but he still comes down with the ball. And the Bombers continue to feed Harris the rock in the third quarter. Harris with the grueling run to set up a field goal here to make it a 3-possession game, and he was unstoppable. A man on a mission, finishing with 169 combined yards, and the Bombers are Grey Cup champions for the 11th time in franchise history. 33-12 is the final to end that drought, and very fitting. The longest-serving Bomber, Jake Thomas, gets the Grey Cup, and he's the first person to hoist it over his head to celebrate. And, of course, as you mentioned, Harris, both the game MVP and the most outstanding Canadian. He is the first ever player in CFL history to win both. So an amazing performance by Harris, but also got to mention that defense, because what a game from the front 7, actually. Forced 7 turnovers, and you know what? It was a pretty perfect game all around.
That Hamilton offense, too, expected to run wild, and the Bombers just shut them down completely.
They were so good the last 2 or 3 games. I think there was 8 straight quarters they did not allow a touchdown. And in the playoffs, that's usually the formula to win games.
We're going to show you some of those 7 turnovers coming up after the break. We'll have full highlights from the game. More Grey Cup analysts to come. We will take a break and stay with us. The Bombers, 2019 Grey Cup champions. All right, welcome back. The Winnipeg Blue Bombers, the 2019 Grey Cup champions, a 33-12 thrashing of the Hamilton Tiger Cats, who were the best team in the league coming into this, but the Bombers shut them down. So we got to get into the full game highlights. You saw a tease before the break. Let's bring back Russ Hobson in now for a look at the full highlights. Russ?
Well, after back-to-back playoff wins against the best the West had to offer, the road to the end of the Grey Cup drought went right through the CFL's top team in the regular season for the Blue Bombers. The Hamilton Tiger Cats had 15 wins and just 3 losses, and beat the Bombers pretty handily in both their regular season matchups. But if there's a club that knows all about upsets in the Grey Cup game, it's the Bombers, as they tried to end a 5-game Grey Cup losing streak and wipe out that 28 years of frustration. Now, 6 of the Winnipeg Football Club's 10 Grey Cup wins have come against Hamilton, with this their 11th meeting in the title game. The only lineup change for the Bombers had Jeff Heck coming in on special teams. On the Ticats' very first drive, QB Dane Evans looking over the middle. It's tipped, and Brandon Alexander has it for the interception and the first turnover of the Grey Cup. Still first, as Jackson Jeffcoat is bringing down Evans for the sack. Willie Jefferson catches him in the helmet. That's a penalty flag, and Mike O'Shea not liking the call at all. But on the very next play, more pressure from the Bombers front. Jefferson forcing the fumble, and Adam Bighill scoops it up, and the second Ticat possession ends the same as the first with a turnover. Then on Andrew Harris, there it is. Bighill jumping on it for the turnover. Now, Harris also had the first TD in the 2011 Grey Cup en route to the victory. Would history repeat? The Tabbies kick a field goal, but the Bombers can't match. Justin Medlock hitting it wide right from 47 yards out as they take the single. The Bombers defense then comes up big again. They get the stop in 3rd and 1 for the 3rd turnover of the game. 3rd turnover of the quarter. 2nd quarter with the now 11-6. Chris Streveler in the game, a quarterback, looking end zone into tight coverage, and Harris making the grab in traffic for his 2nd TD of the game. It was 21-6 at the half. The Bombers blew 2 massive second-half leads in the regular season, but the Bombers defense still taking care of business. Another 3rd down stop and another turnover on downs. The Tabbies get the ball right back, though, and they fake the field goal on 3rd down, tossing to Luke Tasker, who gets the first down and then some. And then on 1st and goal, Evans swings it out to Braylon Addison. He runs it in for the Ticats touchdown. Hamilton goes for 2, but Kyrie Wilson with perfect coverage, and the Bombers had a 12-point lead. Fourth cue, Harris, a man on a mission. A huge hole, getting to the second level to put them back in scoring range. They take a shot at the end zone. Rasheed Bailey appears to have the touchdown, but it's ruled he trapped the ball, so they settle for 3 to make it 30-12. But this time the defense wasn't letting the Ticats back in it. Jefferson forcing the ball loose. The Ticats recover, though, but on the very next play, Jeffco takes his turn, and he pounces on it for yet another turnover and start the celebration. O'Shea getting the old Gatorade shower, and the drought is finally over. It ends at 28 years as Jake Thomas finally hoists the cup, the 11th Grey Cup in franchise history, and yes, the party is on. Harris becoming the first player in CFL history to win both the Grey Cup MVP and the most outstanding Canadian, and it was well deserved. 134 yards rushing, 35 yards receiving for 169 combined yards. The Bombers forced 7 turnovers and held the CFL's MOP Brandon Banks to just 72 yards receiving before knocking him out of the game with an injury in the second half.
Really excited for our players, for them to play so well in the game that mattered most. I mean, they're not going to have any regrets. You know, they're not going to look back about plays they wish they had or anything like that. I mean, that winning helps that anyway. But they just really played very, very well. So I'm excited for them. Defensively, I thought, you know, Richie, Glenn, JY, and James put together a plan. They work really hard. But this run through the playoffs, their planning was exceptional. And they were spot on with it and how we were going to win games. And defensively, as players, you know, they were faced with a challenge 8, 9, whatever weeks ago it was. And the challenge was, and they accepted the challenge. The challenge was if you want to be champions, you got to put them on their back and live that mantra that defense wins championships. And all 3 phases played well through the playoffs, but the defense today, boy, did they shine.
I don't want to take anything away from them, and, you know, I'm still proud of our guys. I told them they need to keep their head high. It's going to sting, and, you know, the bottom line is we didn't play like champions tonight.
Well, and I think it was a good omen. The first pass Hamilton threw was an interception. You just felt like something was going the Bombers' way tonight, and the turnovers continued in that first quarter. It was unreal. Right?
Yeah, when you get 3 turnovers in the first quarter, you kind of expect to win games. And in these games, the game's usually won on either turnovers or the battle in the trenches, and the Bombers dominated both those tonight. The defensive line was just fantastic. The bookends, Jackson Jeffcoat and Willie Jefferson. You know, Jefferson kind of quiet the last 2 playoff games, but he saved his best for the biggest game. They were on Dane Evans all night. He had no time to pass, and that's just the recipe for success, especially in a Grey Cup game.
Yeah, that #1 offense shut down tonight. We're going to hear more about this game after the break. We're joined by CFL Hall of Famer and Bombers legend Doug Brown. Stay with us for that. The Bombers Grey Cup champions. Welcome back. The party is on in Winnipeg as the Winnipeg Blue Bombers are the 2019 Grey Cup champions, defeating the Hamilton Tiger Cats. Let's talk about this game some more, and we got to bring in 680 CJOB football analyst, CFL Hall of Famer, Bombers legend Doug Brown. And Doug, Hamilton was supposed to light it up on offense. They did all year. That was going to be the key coming into this game, but the Bomber defense said no. 7 turnovers. How did they do it? How did they shut down Brandon Banks, Dane Evans, all those weapons on offense for Hamilton?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it really started up front for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. I think Hamilton, with all the all-stars they had on their offensive line, I thought they had an inkling that they could block these guys man up and not add extra to their protection series. And the Bomber front four, really, they just won all their one-on-ones, you know, and when you've got ends of the caliber of Jefferson and Jackson, and then the quarterback's not able to step up because you've got the interior players like Richardson and Drake Nevis and Jake Thomas, they were just eliminating any avenue of escape for Dane Evans tonight in the game, and I really feel like that was a catalyst for an overwhelmingly dominant defensive performance tonight.
You look at the up and down year this Bombers team has had. A great start, and then they kind of hit a wall in that middle part of the year. They eventually dropped to 3rd place and have to go on the road for the playoffs. Did you envision this? Let's go back to maybe early October, middle of October. Did you think this could possibly happen, that this team could kind of run the table in the West and hoist the Grey Cup at the end of the season the way things were looking?
Yeah, I know. I mean, when you lose 4 of your final 6 games, you're not exactly going on a tear, and you're not building momentum going into the playoffs. So it was very unexpected. But this football team, they learned so much from what they went through. All the struggles they had, the ups and downs, the situations, all the drama they had. It just made this football team stronger. And I think the final punch that really changed the dynamic and the face and the identity of this football team was when Zach Collaros arrived, and that just changed everything offensively. They had a poised veteran quarterback. It opened things up for them. The playbook became, you know, pick your monster, pick your poison, and they just became so much more efficient. And I think he was the final piece to the puzzle that just propelled this football team. The defense was always on the edge. They put it together, and then all 3 phases were able to put together an overwhelmingly dominant performance in the Grey Cup game.
Got to ask you about this game's MVP and the most outstanding Canadian, Andrew Harris. What a game for him. Didn't do a heck of a lot in those first 2 playoff games. Did you expect this big game after those maybe slower playoff games that he had earlier in this postseason? Did you expect this from him?
Yeah, I mean, Andrew Harris was a man on fire. I think that's just the best way to describe it. He was V for Vendetta out there, and he was possessed in terms of his determination and just refusal to not be successful and to not carry this football team. It's just such a great story how Andrew Harris, and to a part, obviously, Nick Dembski as well, 2 local kids, 2 guys from Oak Park High School. Those guys are what it took to really spark a football team and to finally erase a drought that went almost 3 decades. So it's quite a story that it all started with some homegrown players that played their best football, because those were the guys that understood what this meant to this community and this environment, and those are the guys that largely got it done. So what a great story.
Yes, indeed. What a night. We want to thank you for joining us. Doug Brown, 680 CJOB football analyst and CFL Hall of Famer. Thank you so much, Doug.
Thanks, guys. See you down at Portage and Main.
Yeah, you'll be joining a lot of people out there. Stay with us after the break. We will head back down there to hear from the fans. It is loud down there. We'll take you there next. Bombers, Grey Cup champs. All right, welcome back. Once again, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers 2019 Grey Cup champions. A dominating performance over the Hamilton Tiger Cats in Calgary, one that will be remembered for a long, long time in the city. And there's been some pretty big parties on Portage and Main tonight. Might be the biggest. Let's head back down there with our reporter Marek Tkach, who is in the thick of the party. Marek, has the crowd grown since he got there?
Let's go! Let's go! Well, thanks, Kevin. As you can hear, everybody's still pretty pumped up. Cops have been blocking off Portage and Main from all 4 intersections for almost an hour now, and it does, as you can see around me, it doesn't seem to be dying down anytime soon. As you can see, I'm getting some new Bomber merchandise as we go.
We're number 1, baby!
And fans have been waiting for this for a long time, 29 years to be exact. And like I said, it doesn't seem to be dying down anytime soon.
All right, thank you so much, Marek Tkach, a brave soul out there on Portage and Main. And you can bet that party's going to be going on for quite the night here, quite a bit longer here on the nights. Let's bring in Russ Hobson back again. So, I mean, the party's going to be on here for a while. The last thing that Kyle Walters and Mike O'Shea want to think about is next year, but there's going to be some tough decisions to make for this team. All 3 quarterbacks, Zach Collaros, Matt Nichols, Chris Strevler, are free agents next year. What is this team going to do? I guess it's easy to say bring back what got you to the Grey Cup, but I'm sure that decision is a lot tougher for those guys making them, right?
Well, even the guys making the decision, because Mike O'Shea is one of those guys who does not have a contract, and they have to also get him under contract. And there's been talk of him going other places, but I'm pretty sure he's happy with the situation here. I'd be shocked if Mike O'Shea is not back next year. But quarterback, something's got to give. All three QBs, Strevler, Nichols, and Claros, all are free agents. If they re-sign Claros, they have to give the Argonauts an extra first-round draft pick. So that's a knock against Claros right there. You're going to have to give up a first-round pick if you want to keep him. Nichols obviously had his season-ending shoulder surgery. Is his throwing shoulder going to be the same after that? And Chris Strevler, obviously, he got some starts down the stretch. They weren't very successful with him starting. That's when they went and got Claros. So there's going to be some decisions. They're only going to be able to bring one of those guys back probably next year with the way the salary cap and everything is. So it's going to be some tough decisions for Kyle Walters and company.
Yeah, and let's just sum things up here quickly. The first Grey Cup in almost 30 years for you. You've been covering sports in Winnipeg 20 years, I believe. What do you think this means to the fans in Winnipeg?
Well, I think when the Jets left town, a lot of people gravitated to the Bombers, and they became so hardcore Bomber fans after the Jets left. And it's been such a dry spell. And there's been like 5 games they've lost in the Grey Cup since that last Grey Cup win. That 2001 team, there's no way they should have lost that game. So I think it's almost a sigh of relief that it's finally here.
It's a little bit surreal for sure. Once again, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers 2019 Grey Cup champions. How does that sound, Winnipeg? We'll leave you with the sights and sounds from a memorable and historic night in Winnipeg.
Enjoy the party.